When it comes to nutrition, it really feels like you have to pick a team, right? Are you team vegan or team carnivore? But what if that whole debate is asking the wrong question? Today, we're diving into a pretty radical idea that says the real secret to health isn't about what you eat, but the pattern in which you eat it. So let's really start with this question, because there's this fascinating new idea, borrowed from the world of physics of all places, that might just change how we think about food forever. It suggests that the answer isn't in some perfect list of good foods and bad foods, but in the rhythm and the pattern of our eating over time. And to understand how this all connects to your dinner plate, we first have to take a little detour and talk about a powerful concept from physics called self-organized criticality. And believe it or not, our lesson starts with something super simple, a pile of sand. Okay, picture this. You're adding sand to a pile, one single grain at a time. The pile gets steeper and steeper, building up tension until it hits this critical point. Now, at this point, the very next grain of sand could cause a tiny little shift, or it could trigger a massive avalanche. After that toppling event, the whole system settles back down into a new, perfectly balanced state. And that state, that perfectly balanced point, has a name: self-organized criticality. It's this amazing tendency for complex systems to naturally find their way to the very edge of chaos, holding a perfect balance between being too orderly and being completely random. And here's the thing, this isn't just about sand piles. It's happening inside you right now. So this is where things get really cool. A concept from physics. What does it have to do with our health? Well, everything actually. Our own biology, our own bodies are constantly performing this incredible balancing act just to keep us going. There's this thing called the criticality hypothesis, and it basically says that our biological systems, we're talking everything from our brain to our heart, they work best when they're living in this edge state. It gives them this perfect trade-off. They're strong enough to be stable, but they're also flexible enough to adapt to whatever life throws at them. Think of it like a tightrope walker. If you're too rigid and orderly, you can't adjust to a gust of wind and you fall. If you're too loose and chaotic, you lose your balance immediately. Criticality is that sweet spot right in the middle, that perfect tension that gives us both the strength of order and the flexibility of disorder. So what's the payoff for being in this state? Well, the benefits are huge. When our internal systems are humming along in this critical zone, they're at their absolute peak. They process information faster, they adapt to new challenges better, and they stay resilient against stress. You could say this is the biological definition of what it means to be healthy. Okay, so our bodies are constantly trying to hit this sweet spot of criticality. But how does what we eat play into all of this? Well, the answer lies in one of the most important and, frankly, amazing communication networks in our entire body, the gut-brain axis. I'm sure you've heard the phrase second brain when people talk about the gut, but it's so much more than just a cute saying. It's literally true. The enteric nervous system is this massive, complex web of neurons that lines our entire digestive tract, and it can actually operate with a mind of its own. And this connection between the gut and the brain is like a superhighway. You've got the vagus nerve, which is like a direct, two-way fiber optic cable. You've got neurotransmitters, hormones, and literally trillions of tiny microbes in our gut, all sending messages back and forth that influence everything from our hunger to our mood to even our memory. All right, so this is it. This is the moment where all these pieces, the sand pile, criticality, the gut-brain axis, all of it comes together. If our body is this complex system that needs to be in a critical state to be healthy, and our gut is constantly processing signals from our food, well, what kind of signals does it need to get? So here it is, the big idea. It's called the food pile criticality hypothesis, and it says this: for our bodies to maintain that healthy critical state, the input from our diet has to have a critical pattern too. In other words, the mix of nutrients we eat over time needs to have that same complex, perfectly balanced structure that our own body is striving for. So how do we even picture these dietary patterns? Well, a really useful way to think about it is to imagine them as different kinds of signals, or what scientists sometimes call noise, that we're sending into our system. And our diets basically fall into one of three camps. First, you've got brown noise, which is way too predictable and orderly. Think of a super strict, repetitive diet. Then on the other end, you have white noise, which is completely random and chaotic. That's kind of like the modern industrialized diet. And finally, you have pink noise, the complex, varied, and just right signal our bodies are actually craving. Let's start with brown noise. Think of this as the sound of monotony. It's a diet that's just too orderly, like eating the exact same chicken and broccoli every single day. This kind of diet doesn't have the healthy little surprises and variations that our system needs to stay sharp and adaptable. It's just boring. Then you have the complete opposite, white noise. This is pure random chaos. Think of the modern Western diet packed with processed foods and unpredictable ingredients. It's like blasting static into your system. It's just a bunch of chaotic signals with no real, coherent nutritional information for our body to work with. And then there's pink noise. And this is the magic, the critical sweet spot we've been talking about. It's the statistical fingerprint of healthy, complex systems all throughout nature. This pattern has a beautiful mix of predictable elements and surprising new inputs. It's exactly the kind of dynamic, varied signal that our biology needs to stay strong, resilient, and healthy. So, okay, if pink noise is the goal, what does that actually mean for what we should put on our plate? How do we get beyond these simple, restrictive labels like vegan or carnivore? If you take away just one thing from all of this, let it be this. We have to shift our focus. Instead of getting obsessed with lists of good foods and bad foods, we should be focused on creating a healthy, dynamic pattern of eating over time. So what does this critical diet look like in real life? Well, the beautiful thing is it doesn't look like just one thing. This is exactly why the vegan versus carnivore debate misses the entire point. A truly healthy pattern is sometimes vegan, and it's sometimes carnivore, and it's very often omnivore. It includes periods of fasting. It changes with the seasons and what's available. Honestly, it looks a whole lot like the varied traditional ways of eating that humans have followed for thousands of years. Which really leaves us with this one big question, right? Is the secret to true health really found in some rigid list of foods? Or is it found in embracing a dynamic rhythm of eating, a pattern that keeps our amazing bodies perfectly poised on that healthy, critical edge?